Take things out of order.
Okay, let's go with the administration committee then.
We're going to take things out of order because we have a citizen here who is interested in one of these issues as opposed to making you wait all day.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the Grace Academy sign request. Is that Mr. Hahn or who's going to handle it?
It is Mr. Hahn.
All right.
You can pull it up, the letter.
What a twosome this is. Dick and dong. I better watch it.
I'll do now.
Received a copy of this letter. This is the letter
Read it.
of their request. And just, I don't know if you've all been up there. It's the First Nazarene Church at the top of in the circle there of Short Hill. And there's a sign. There's currently a sign down at the intersection of Dixie.
Right, I've seen
Right
it.
there, that's been there for a good number of years. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on the way you look at it, that sign is considered a non-conforming sign, just because, for two reasons. One, it's off the site, advertising a business that's off the site where it is, plus that one happens to be in the right-of-way. So what they're wanting to do is have some sort of signage at this area to show that they have their school up at that church. So for them to permit that would be another, by ordinance, that is
before you get to, oh, down on the, okay, now I know where it's,
allow them. So they would
illegal anyway.
Right. The only way to do that would be the city would have to allow off-site signage. And I know at times we have fought that over the years, but newer up there and they're looking to see what.
Well, what you're saying is there's nothing we can do. I mean.
We can amend the ordinance.
Amend the ordinance, and then all of a sudden, we're gonna have everybody that has a business off Dixie Highway, and we're gonna be nothing but a billboard going down Dixie Highway. That's why we took them down to
You
begin
can't
with.
do it just for this one particular business. That's
Correct.
And the sign that's there is pre-existing and non-conforming.
That's grandfather.
So,
Hitler was a
So you're saying grandfather, then we could do it for this one business?
No, I'm saying, that's a non-conforming sign that's there now. That sign right there is non-conforming to the ordinance as it stands.
That sign there is not.
So if we do anything, it would open up to where possible billboards could be put up,
Well,
or in that direction?
it would be signage like.
Just
yeah,
hanging.
It would, if you were to change it, it would allow off-site signage.
Because that's not technically on their property.
Well, you won't be able to see any of the roads.
So the proposal is to put a sign where that one exists.
Valerie Mosco's here from the Grace School, and she may want to address you, I don't know. But yeah, my understanding is they want to put a sign on top of that or something.
Well, yeah, like, because we don't know, what the rules are, and we've kind of been bouncing around, well, this person in charge, So we sent a letter and figured we'd come and talk. I mean, we could update their sign and just add a little thing at the bottom saying, we're down here, just because, I mean, you're back there in the cul-de-sac and there's no way for people to know where we are. I mean, we could just update their sign and just kind of put it at the bottom, instead of it being a sign like, oh, Grace Academy is here, it could still be the Erlanger First Church on the next street and just have an addition on it, maybe update their sign a little bit. I mean, I just don't know what the options are. I mean,
Right.
Can't do that.
whatever.
That can't be done either, can it, without ordinance?
No, I mean, that sign, if they wanted to come in and make that sign bigger or move it or whatever, like I said, it's considered non-conforming and that can't be done. That sign can be there forever and ever. By the ordinance, they can paint it and freshen it up, but they can't make it bigger, smaller, move.
Change it, you can't change the writing on it or anything.
But if they paint the sign, say they go down and paint the whole thing white, can they put something else on that sign?
Well, again, this is a sign that is within the right of way. State so chooses, because that's a state right of way. if the state so chooses, they could just come and
Come on, pick her
Take
up.
it up.
pick it up and say, well, we don't want that here.
I'm with you.
We cannot permit anything that's on the right-of-way, other than a sign that talks about parking, stop signs, that sort of.
So not only is it our sign ordinance, but it's the state rules on the highway. It's,
State right-of-way, yeah, but it's, even if that were the city's right-of-way, or a city street right-of-way, it would be the same. Because that's not by ordinance, that's by
The law.
state regulations.
ma'am, one of the biggest problems that we've had, and I've been here a while, and we have fought signage on the Dixie Highway for as long as I can remember, because, and yours would not be an unwelcome addition, because you are a welcome addition to the city. But we can't make an exception for something we really like. Because then if we do, we're going to open it up to everybody else, and whoever else has a business that's a block away from the Dixie Highway is going to want to come up and put a sign with an arrow that says, hey, we're here. And we've been trying to, as best we could, within our means, clean up the Dixie Highway and make it not as cluttered. And I don't think there's a way we can do it without changing our rules. And then you got the state right-of-way problem, which is we can't touch at all. So I don't know if there's anything we can do. Yeah, Patty.
I was just wondering, have you all given any thought to talking not to, only to those neighbors, but to your, maybe like the foot doctor, who is right, really close to there? Could they put a sign on the foot doctor's sign?
It'd be the same thing, would be advertising a business that isn't on the same.
I see.
We were just,
Okay.
we just
I
said,
see.
We just said the same, we were talking about the same thing, if they could hook up to
Yeah.
another business.
I see. Oh, I hate that for you.
doesn't sound good.
I do.
Anything else? Yeah.
No, I'm gonna say, I hate this monitor, Mr. Mayor, because you can't see me.
I can't see your hand all the time.
Maybe you put that there for a reason.
I didn't touch it. I
I
got
saw
nothing.
the request.
Is there any restrictions on putting a sign on Short Hill? Just not be in the right of way on Dixie?
Yeah, it has to be on their own
Be
property.
on the property of the business.
It has to be on the property.
On the property
Of the
that's
business.
advertised. Yeah, that they're advertising, and signs have to be on.
We have nothing else we can do.
Sorry.
That's a bummer.
Thanks for bringing it to us. I'm sorry we can't help you. All right, thank you. Okay, good luck to you. Now we'll go back to this. We'll go to the Finance Committee. Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Mayor. Greg's in the house. I think Greg's going to talk about some audit bids we got for this fiscal year coming up.
We did take proposals for the audit for the next 3 fiscal years, and I distributed a memorandum along with an attachment that summarized those proposals. And it was pointed out to me right before the meeting that I have the wrong years on that attachment. It should be fiscal year 14, 15, and 16, not 11, 12, and 13.
Thank you, sir, for taking care of that.
That was wishful thinking on your
I'm
part.
glad somebody caught it because I didn't. The bottom line to all this is we received 5 proposals, all from very reputable firms. The lowest proposal was from Maddox and Associates over in Fort Thomas. They, as near as we can tell, are a good firm, but they have very limited experience in auditing cities in Kentucky of our size. They do Williamstown, Butler, Owenton, Mount Olivet, so they're all much smaller communities. They also don't have, or as near as I know, none of those cities prepare a CAFR, bigger audit report that we prepare. And there's a fairly significant difference between a regular audit and a CAFR. So for those reasons, we're recommending the second low bidder, which is Van Gorder Walker, who are located here in city. And their price would be, for a single audit, and we do get a single audit. If our federal funds exceed $500,000 a year, we have to get a single audit. This past year we had a single audit. In this current year that we're in now, we're going to probably need a single audit, and then we'll revert back to just a regular. But the single audit is $15,000, and then next year and a year after, unless we get some fairly substantial grant money, it would drop down to $13,000 and $14,000 for those two fiscal periods. So that's our recommendation, and we would probably put that on your, ask that be put on your March meeting for approval. Contract with them.
It's really nice that it's an Erlanger company this time.
I think so too, yeah.
Our previous auditors did a very good job for us. It kind of came out of the blue when they bid and with their price, and they did a very good job, but they were not allowed to bid for 3 more years with their corporate headquarters because of some other things that took place, had nothing to do with us. So, but at the same time, we were very pleased with them, but I'm happy that we're doing this inside the city now. Anything else, Greg? Anything else, committee?
No, that's it, Mayor.
All right, cool. Let's go to the policy edition then.
Y'all remember we talked about a situation that we had in one of the departments in an executive session. This policy is a direct response to that. I emailed it all to everybody. Mr. Wickman's had it for a while. He's okay with it. This is what we're proposing to adopt is our fraternization policy. So when we're redoing the personnel policies, we're going to put this into that. We wanted to go ahead and enact this one along with the code of conduct, which is this. It's just a standard of conduct that we're going to expect out of all of our employees. Pretty straightforward. There is absolutely no surprises in here. They would be given this, of course, in the orientation when they're first hired to do. So wanted some input on it, see if it was okay with everybody, or if there's any issues with it, to make any changes that we have to make. We would like to adopt these two things at the next meeting. If we could, we'll get away from the draft form so that we can start doing this in orientation with our new employees and doing it. This will be a part of the whole personnel policy when we get it revamped, and we hopefully will have that done before the beginning of the fiscal year to give the whole policy to you. Open for conduct or for comments. This is a this is a change from what we've done in the past. Some of it is
On that code of conduct.
That's what you want.
On that code of conduct, do they sign that every year?
I think they're going to sign it when they're new employees.
But I mean, what I'm saying, so they don't have to sign a new one each year?
No, unless it would change. The new policy tech that we're using that is going to be in there, if any changes are made to the policies once they've been put in there, then they'll be sent out to all the employees. At that point in time, they'll have to sign off on it. We can even design quizzes to make sure they understand those things. They have to pass the quiz. We'll know. We'll have a record of that. So that'll all be electronic very shortly.
Okay.
So makes sense. Is it an individual sign-off for each one of these items, or is it just a whole policy review, sign-off on the whole thing?
No, on this one here, the code of conduct, we would have everybody sign the code of conduct. Okay. We gave it to you. We went over it. You understand it. There have been a couple things, and again, I'm sorry, because I was brought up by the team to me. Sometimes I go back to the old PD stuff. We did a canon of ethics and a code of ethics, and everybody signed off on those. You know, and they signed off on it before they were given that job. You know, at that job offer, you signed off on these things. Those were state-mandated forms that came along with the whole Police Officer Professional Standards Act. Just copying some of that
here, so our employees walk through the door knowing that this is what it is. You see, there's also, and we put it at the bottom, all the job descriptions that you'd come up with before, that talks about similar things and about what we, expected. That's at the end of every job. But they're given those too during orientation or beforehand, making sure they sign off on that so they can do the job and they're capable of doing all the duties that are in that job description. It goes along with that.
Are the department heads in favor of this draft?
Yes. Yes.
I have found over the years doing employment law myself that it is always better for the employee to know what's expected before they come in. And it's also easier in the enforcement end if you have a bad actor that you need to discipline or get rid of, that they have been told that if you do this, you're in trouble. And they've got their signature on it. It makes life a lot easier. You hate to codify everything in a workplace, but these are simple. These are common. These are no-brainers. And you'd be surprised the people who violate the no-brainers. I mean, we had no common sense. We had a policeman just do it.
The reason why I asked if he signed that, or I just did mine. We have to sign that code of conduct and ethics every year.
We do too.
We have to read it, sign it, and before you even sign it, you got to take a test. And you got to get like 80% or higher on the test, and if you don't, you got to keep taking it till you get it. So, I mean, it's something that you might want to look into because there's a lot of things in there that, and I can see how my work relates to this place because there's a lot of stuff that needs to be kept within inside.
Steve just told me that Policy Tech, the program that we do have, that we can do this every year. We can send it out every year on the anniversary date to make sure people, it's the expression.
If you're having issues with it, if we're having issues with it across the board, I don't see an issue with not doing it every year. That way you're covering.
You're out of here.
I don't want to give the impression that we're having.
No, you're not.
Problems. I don't want to give that impression.
No. I'm just going by what,
Doesn't hurt.
I've done for 20 years, so.
Yeah. Don't hurt to remind them.
And it makes it a more professional place to work, and the actual employee who comes in, maybe a new hire, can feel more comfortable knowing that it's not necessarily a good old boys home. There are rules. Everybody has to follow the rules, same rules they have to follow, and they can feel secure in their position in that as long as we enforce it.
And the citizens, and this is what I hope that we would do at some point in time, when we incorporate and we have the mission statement, and we have the vision at some point in time, and then adopt this code. I mean, this is what our values are, and put it out front in the lobby. Citizens coming in, they can see that, and they know what they're going to get. When we always remember we exist to serve the public. I mean, if somebody walks in here, I'm a citizen, which I am, but if I'm a citizen, I walk in here, I don't know anything about it, and I see that sticks out. That leaves an impression in my mind, that the city really does care about that and really wants, we're here to serve you. That's what we want to portray. Having that even posted on those things.
Any more questions?
I like it.
Okay.
Okay with it?
Yeah. Good.
Good.
Send it over.
Okay. The last one is the IT presentation that we put off a couple times because of the weather.
Me too. We are.
Steve and I are going to do this in tandem. We're going to do it together. So I hope that we make sense as we're going along. What we wanted to do is kind of give you the past, how we got to where we're at today, and lay out a future, what we believe as a team, all of us, what we should be doing going forward. You're going to see a lot of things in here, big deviation from where we've been and where we're going. And we didn't do this just haphazardly. This has been in the works from the PD. Dispatch began a test of what we're going to propose doing back in 2008. And in that test, we took that small group of people and moved them all to a Google format away from Microsoft. transitioned the whole police department in July of 2011. I'm going to tell you, I lived through both of those, and it was a very, very difficult transition. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it wasn't painless, because it was. We've now changed inside administration, fire, and public works, and everybody's been using Google for about the past 2 months. Okay? About when we did it. Started throwing it out there. This one has been much smoother than the other transitions were, because we learned a lot from those transitions. I hope we did. If not, we're going to make the same mistakes again. But we learned a lot from those first two. So this transition has been smoother, and I think everybody has bought into it. There was a story I just heard tonight. Mary Hoffman was off work last week sick. However, she was able to work at home seamlessly using this and was very thankful. And I'm not sure exactly what she did, but I just heard that tonight here. So we're hearing those stories all the time. So people are buying into this and are using it, which is what we hoped would happen. You see some of the benefits that we had from it. Easy access to email. You can do anything from any place. Just going into the Gmail part of this. The security part of it, Steve can talk a little bit about that. But what it gives us, too, is collaboration on all of our documents. So I can do a document, share it, give people edit rights to it. They can make those changes to that, and we're all seeing it at the very same time. It doesn't matter if I'm sitting here or I'm sitting in Hawaii, which I'd love to be. But anyway, the same thing. You know, we can use that. So the collaboration was there. You'll see a little bit more of that. We can talk about what the evaluation process has been inside the PD and dispatch for years. You know, supervisors, sometimes there's more than one supervisor evaluating people. So they were able to collaborate on these documents without me and you doing, okay, I'm going to send you my doc, unless you have to make a copy of it and you have to do this, you have to make these changes. That way, it's made it so much smoother. I know that Bob can speak, you know, directly to that and what it's done to the process inside the PD, just with that one process of being able to do that. We're going through the budget process right now. If we ever were able to move all these things over, all those things could be shared with Greg. So all those things that we would do would be, I would make a change, Greg would see that, he'd make a change. Do all of this that way on that same piece of paper without going back and having to erase and having to do things. So made collaboration much easier to do. The other thing, when we moved to this, really helpful, and what we're going to suggest, you know, when all this is over with, along with this system for no extra cost, none of this is all one price. You know, if you get the Gmail, you know, which we've gotten, you get that, you do everything, all the users, everything else comes with it. You'll see the cost of this in just a little bit. It's much less than what we're paying today. Okay? But you also get a Google phone. What we have done is we have set up email accounts for everybody in this room. Along with that, and it's going to be your first name, your last name, at cityofErlanger.com. That's pretty easy to give out. We struggled forever. That CI has come around, and I've not heard anything from anybody about good about that CI. I know people, there's other cities around. Gatlinburg, Tennessee, buddy's the assistant chief. They still use the CI.TN instead of the CI.KY. They're still using that one in Gatlinburg. Yeah. That's the only city outside of here that I keep in contact with that I know that actually uses one just like that. You see the other one, the city name's in it somewhere. It's either .com, .org, .net. It's you know, it's something. It's very simple compared to what we've been doing with CI.org. But along with that comes a Google phone number. Okay, we can set up phone numbers for everybody here. You can put it on our webpage. I was talking a little earlier. You know, you can have your email there, the city email, that city phone number that will ring into that Google phone, and that Google phone will then send that to your email. So citizens will have a way to contact you without getting a hold of you by your personal cell phone, by your home phone number, or anything else. We had heard some of these things, and I think it'll make it much simpler to keep up with. Commonwealth Station, you heard Janine Schilling set up here, the owner of the Fit Place over next door. She sent everybody here emails. And sent a big letter about all the trials and tribulations she's gone through over the years. Several people didn't get it. Because when she went on our website, she was using something old that was there. So when we change them, this would be much easier. Because it's not going to change. When you change your personal email, your email is gone. I'm going to say this since we're alone. Okay? We just went to some training back at the end of last year. And our insurance company is telling us this. Okay? Do not do city correspondence using your personal emails. Don't do it. Somebody does an open records request, guess what they're getting? They're going to get all your email. Every bit of it. I know, the mayor and I have talked about this a lot. A lot of the stuff he does in his personal email, client, attorney privilege, you're going to have to go through and prove all of those things. You're going to have to say why you redacted those. I don't even think we want to put ourselves through that, to be quite honest with you. I know I don't.
I think so.
Yeah. And, when we pull up my notebook, it was, I guess it's up there, or it was here somewhere. I was showing these earlier. Got both mine in there. My personal one's right there. But I click on my personal one, and there's no city stuff in my personal one. My city account is here. So, I mean, it just makes sense when we go through this to go on further. It shows there's going to be a lot of different things. I'm going to let Steve, the next part, I will show some of the cities that have gone this way, some of the reasons why, because he's done a lot of research before we went into this. It's not something that we just did happen. Been working on this for a long time.
Boss and I have done a lot of presentations over the years, and every time when he gets on a roll, it's hard to pull him, to rein him in. Some of the slides may now be redundant, but that's okay. He's caught him early. We did do a lot of investigating in this, and you see here some of the cities that are much larger than us. I spoke directly with the city of Miami, who at that time was the big one, and just recently, you see there, the state of Maryland has agreed to go with all of their employees with Google. They did a test study with 2,000 state troopers in the state of Maryland, and then deemed it successful, and they're now rolling all 54,000 employees over to Google. The city of Los Angeles, actually, we were involved with the research when they went, and when you see this, when a lot of people sometimes will consider the city of Los Angeles a failure, everyone in the city of Los Angeles except for the police department went to Google, and it was because at that time, Google didn't have a government-only server. They now do have a government-only server. And the LAPD had a tradition of emailing driver's license information and criminal history amongst themselves because they were so large. Well, that violates FBI CJIS rules if you personally can't vouch for every person who has the ability to touch the server. I will tell you that it was my personal decision to stay on Google's main servers, which can, in some instances, reach outside the country, as opposed to going to their government server, which is a single server, because I thought it was a hide-in-the-forest approach. Google now, after the recent NSA revelation, automatically encrypts every piece of data that goes onto their servers before it ever gets written to disk. So that's another piece of security that comes at no charge with Google. I listened to the head of technology for the city of Miami say that at one time he actually had 4 employees who did nothing but security. That was their job, but yet he still couldn't protect the city of Miami's information 24/7 because there's only 4 of them. Most cities look at Google as an alternative because of budget crisis, and the Miami and Los Angeles and the rest of them at that point in time were no exception. Many of the cities moving forward now are moving forward on reputation and not on a budget crisis, but they're being preemptive about it. But the city of Miami, his take on it was, even when I ran my own security, we were always reactive. I was always getting a call, our servers are being attacked or this is going on, and we were always, in a reactive mode because they simply didn't have the pockets to be proactive. And that's what Google does for a living. He said, you know, even now today, if something happens, Google sends me an email and lets me know, but they have people and resources 24/7 that do nothing but protect their information because they have the pockets. This is what they do for their business. So, you know, even cities of this size understand that applying resources to protect their data, which in this day and age is, you know, should be of the highest priority, is something that, you know, they can choose to do it on that, or they can choose to, you know, spend it on their streets or other areas. So, you know, I think that they've all made a good decision. I think we made a good decision in allocating our resources to other ventures other than protecting our data. Our data is something that we're going to have. In this day and age, there's no way we can get around it. So exposing or protecting our data by every means possible, you know, is our highest responsibility, as we can see what's recently happened with Target and some of the other ones. You know, the Target and the city of Erlanger, we are not in the business of protecting our data. It's not, you know, what our primary function is, but it is Google's primary function. So we didn't invent the wheel here. You know, we saw something good and we sold it, which in my opinion is good technology.
Works for me.
The process prior to the PD taking charge of IT was, as Cincinnati Bell hosted Exchange Outlook, there was 175 accounts. It included email, Outlook calendar. There were 50 SharePoint licenses, which would allow for collaboration similar to what Mark talked about. It was not implemented for a variety of technical reasons. They had 45 active sync licenses, which allowed the email to be synced with their cell phones because it wasn't something that inherently was done. And then, of course, there was the backing up of the data, which was something that has to be done. So if it was ever called into court. The new system is 140 accounts, and the reason for that is that we made a conscious decision that we weren't going to give email to part-timers. What we learned when we looked at the old system is that most of the part-timers were visibly forwarding their email to personal addresses. So we were paying for them to have an account that was simply a pass-through account. We left it to the department heads. If the department head had a part-timer who they deemed to be of high priority, or that there was a lot of work that they needed to get out of them, then we issued them a city account. And there were a few of those exceptions, but mainly we had, and this was prevalent mainly in the fire department, we asked them to go to their part-timers and say, you're forwarding the account already, where are you forwarding it to? We'll just use that, and we'll save ourselves some money. So that's why there's a difference in numbers. Like Mark said, Google comes with everything. You know, it's the email, it's the calendar, it's online. We have online storage. Google Drive is exactly or very similar to Google Office. It has documents, spreadsheets, presentations. We're going to show you some forms. We spoke about the voice. Every patrol officer, in the old system, every patrol officer had a voice mailbox, and the citizens or the dispatchers were required to go through the verbal prompts of the system to put them in the right mailbox. Every patrolman, and now it's available to everybody, but has on their business card a direct dial 7-digit phone number. It's dual applied to their cell phones, so if you were to dial that number for a patrolman, it would ring their cell phone if they had it turned on. If not, it'll go to it like a voicemail, and then it goes direct to their email with a translated script, which is about 70% correct, enough that you know what the call was about for the most part, and a WAV file so they can listen to it. So they can actually make a phone call using that number as well, so that their phone number, their cellular phone number, is not exposed to the citizen or in some cases the criminal. You know, in the police world, when someone gets your phone number, no matter how small the case, they keep it forever because you're a point of contact. And as a detective, I can tell you I received a few calls at 3 because their life was in an emergency, but I was asleep. But that didn't matter to them. This method allowed us to provide the officers with direct numbers that didn't have to ring at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning because they can turn it off. And this can be available to anyone in the city who utilizes one of our accounts. We also fully back up. The old system with backup costs basically that amount: $28.49 a user, $4,986 a month, $59,832 a year. We are currently under contract with Cincinnati Bell until 2015. There is no partial termination payment. It is full. We are currently, and we'll show you this later, in negotiations with Bell to roll that liability into something that we can actually use. What we pay for Google, including backup, $6.90 a user, $17 a month. $840 a year. We pay $3,200 $600 for backup, which is a full backup of the complete system, not just email, but all documents. And I'm sorry, I was going to bring it with me, but I forgot to, because we've been postponed several times, and I forgot to do it today. We have over 1 million documents backed up in our system already, not just with the addition of the city, but from the PD users, including email. And we do all of that for $11,600 a year, and there is no contract.
Crazy. Wow.
Don't take us so long.
Along with some of the other services that we've been evaluating, Von Lehman Technologies. Von Lehman Technologies is paid by the city on several fronts. One of the fronts is for on-site technical support. They were budgeted at $37.35 for 10 hours per week. They were used over that for most of the year, and we contract monthly for this service. They come in on Mondays and Wednesdays right now. So the PD team took over. The PD team had a staff of three. We have a staff of 3 people. Two of us, myself and Matt, are here 40 hours a week, and we have a part-timer who is here, 22 and a half hours a week. When we merged the services, we created some redundancy between the PD team and the Von Lehman on-site technical person. So we're going to try to eliminate that. We've already talked to them about that. They are now restricted to adhere to their 10-hour agreement so that we can come back within budget. And probably in September, we are going to eliminate them from on-site services because our team is more than capable of handling changing out keyboards, monitors, computers. Our team handled over 150 mobile users when we had the other cities, as well as we did work within every city who was a member of us for some of their internal needs as related to dealing with the police department and CAD. So the team is more than capable of picking up and being there. Plus, we can be here, 40 hours a week. A lot of times the Von Lehman person leaves at noon, and if someone has an issue, then they were forced to wait until they came back again, or when Ms. Hopkins was available to help them out. So we have a better coverage now than we did before.
Can I make a comment, Steve, right there? This is one of the benefits to us of why we did the dispatch. The fact that it's now been downsized, we developed this expertise on the police side, which now, because it's not needed on the police side anymore, is able to spread it throughout the entire organization. And, that was we didn't know it, we were doing it, but it's one of the side benefits.
Sure we did, Tom.
I wish we did. But it's one of the side benefits of having gone through that exercise, because, Steve now is a pro. He knows this stuff inside and out. And we have a team to take over, so good work.
I had a quick question too, I'll get lost if I don't ask you now. Was it $89,000 for the June 15 deadline for Cincinnati Bell?
Yes, sir. Our liability with them through, as of January 1st of this year through June of next year is $89,748.
You said we're trying to work with them to figure out another way to spend that money?
Yeah, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Okay, that's why I just kind of wanted to find out what we were looking into. Okay, thanks.
So Von Lehman Technologies also provides the city side with cloud or hosted services. This is where city workers can log on to a remote site. They get their Windows desktop. Their Microsoft Office is very similar to the police department's, what we call ErlangerPD.com, which we established about 3 years ago to allow remote access to our systems. That is an in-house system. We are currently reviewing the Von Lehman site to see whether or not its usage actually benefits us to have it with them, or if we should bring it in-house and make a larger ErlangerPD.com, which has served the police department very well for the last 3 years that it's been operational. For that service, we're paying $68.87 a month. We're under contract until June of 2015, and if we terminate that contract prior, we are obligated for 50% of the remaining balance. As of January of this year, that 50% represented $61,983. One of the other systems we're looking at is many of our buildings are covered for fire, burglar protection by Shiver Security Services. We are currently talking to Mobilecom about having those alarms route back to dispatch. We do have people here 24/7, and we're in the alarm monitoring business for many years, a few decades ago. So we are looking at seeing if it would be beneficial to us to reestablish that service within dispatch. It is only $167 a month, and I will tell you that Mobilecom is gonna cost us more than that, but once we get that quote, we will have to see how many years of 167 a month will equal out to what Mobilecom is gonna charge us to install that. And of course, after that point where those numbers are equal, it won't cost us anything because we already have the people, monitoring the boards. But, there is gonna be some upfront costs with that money. We may decide that it is cheaper just to ride this contract out because it's not very expensive until, that comes along. Again, this is a contract that we are into through September of 17 for, and a termination is 50% liability. As of the first, that was 75 or 37.57. So one reason that we look at this one, and not really is so much for cost, but just for efficiency. We'll, cut out the middleman. I mean, we have people that do this work. Them calling us to tell us that we have a fire alarm at the Historical Society or Public Works is a little redundant. This is a big one. Repairs and consumables in the city are coming from a lot of different areas. There were 4 different sources at least of printer cartridges. We have 2 copiers that we're currently in contract with to purchase. We own 5 others that ABS is managing. All the small printers throughout the office are managed by another company called DCS. We contract with them for showing up and the labor and cleaning them. They charge us parts and for any ink we use. Office Depot is also supplying us with ink, and we were getting some ink off-shelf third-party as it was needed. I have tasked both ABS and DCS with providing us a quote for handling all of these things totally. We just have money going into too many different places, and we want to unify this into one entity. So hopefully before the end of the month, or before the end of April, we will have at least some information back about one of these guys. Yeah, well, yeah. So the city is also, we have of course, we have a voice over IP system here in the city. Becky had already been approached by Cincinnati Bell advising her that they were going to sunset that system. It has for several years been difficult to purchase parts for that system, particularly in the area of handsets. So each building within the city is also connected by fiber, and that fiber costs us $6,520 a month. Now, when that fiber was put in, it was put in with good reason. When the north office of the PD or the east office of the firehouse needed information, all the resources were here in the city, in the main building, in the servers. Well, since going cloud, nobody really has a need to pick up anything here at the building. All their sources are, they're on the internet. So this is where we talked to Cincinnati Bell about making things better, about rolling that liability over from that Outlook into their new phone system. A phone system is a little bit like a car. You can choose to buy it, which we've done this time, or you can choose to lease it. Leasing it means you're always going to have a payment. But when you buy it, once it gets old, you're stuck with increased maintenance costs, increased part replacement costs, and that's what we face today. The system is getting older, we own it, or we're just getting ready to pay it off actually, and the cost of maintaining it has gone up significantly. The new system and the way Cincinnati Bell does things now is as a service, or basically a lease. As it gets older, if the parts are no longer available, they give us whatever is newest, but we are faced with a continual payment, and we don't know what that'll be yet. I seriously doubt it'll be, I hope it's not going to be at least how much we were paying for email. So we should actually be able to see some cost savings there. But where we will see cost savings is that once we get a new phone system which is cloud-based and no longer dependent upon the fiber, we can cut that 6520 down significantly. We can then go with a smaller internet service or a reduced fiber presence because we don't need that kind of bandwidth to run the phones anymore. So we can offline several servers here in the building downstairs. We can offline several of the connectivities between the building because the phone no longer will rely on them. And hopefully our cost will get less on the phone system and we'll be able to replace it in the future because they're going to own it. They're going to maintain its upkeep. So several things can domino in this area, and we can eliminate that obligation for the Outlook by rolling it to something that we're going to need anyway. And the financing for the current system ends in April, and we're currently paying $43.46 a month to finance that out for. One of the things that we also did, next one there, Matt. The PD switched to Verizon. We've now switched the entire city to Verizon. The city was previously paying $57 a month for their phone services. When the PD entered into agreement with Verizon, we negotiated a cost of $42 a month. It also included enhanced services such as hotspot so that they could create an internet connection wherever they were. All city accounts have now been transitioned except for Urals, which are the tablets. Also in the city account, when we did the PD and then when we did likewise with the city, we were able to sell the equipment back to a reseller. We got a little bit less for the iPhones, and I think that's simply because Apple comes out with a new phone every 3 days, and so there's not a lot of value in the old ones. So we didn't get quite as much money, but we were able to offset. In the PD, we were able to offset our cost 100%. We actually made a little money, but on this side, it cost us a little bit. But we made that up with the reduction in the monthly fee. Changes that we were made aware of when we took over were some problems here in the council chamber. Since this slide was created, obviously we have already gone ahead and made some changes to the audio system. There still are some issues with the video system. The cameras, there is only one still functional that actually rotates, and so we're going to have to we'll make some decisions there. You did approve funding through the IP budget last year to make some of those changes. I will tell you that I was not comfortable with some of those costs, so we did not move forward ad hoc. But we are reevaluating what the problems are here in the building and trying to move forward as cost effectively as we can. As Mark said, we would like to move all of you to the cityoferlanger.com email address. And one of the things that we'd like to recommend, and we will replicate what you see in the AirWatch software so that you can have these documents distributed to you. He's talked to you about why you shouldn't merge them into your personal accounts. But on the Google or the Android side, we can offer you a couple of different choices in what you do or what you're using as a device. And those devices pretty much will all do the same thing. So this is the device that Mark uses. This is the tablet. This tablet is actually capable of writing on the screen if you wish to do that. This is a tablet that Matt and I use. The nice thing about this tablet has about a 30-hour battery life, so that's good. But if you're not a tablet user, you don't like tablets, maybe you'd like to use a keyboard, we will have these available. These are Chromebooks. They have keyboards customized a little bigger, if you like full size, if you like something smaller, you can use this. The nice thing about these two devices, they have 8-second boot time, and they cannot get a virus because they don't have any installed programs. They use everything on the web. One of the things he talked to you about was security and what we do with Gmail. Everyone above in the police department, all members are required to do this. In the city side, anyone who's a department head or has access to department type material is required to use two-factor authentication on Gmail. That means that you have your username, your password, and we have both an application or Google will text you a rotating 6-digit number that you have to put in when you log in. It will be up to the mayor and Mark whether or not this is required of you, but what this means is no one's getting into your accounts. The PD is used, this is probably the only city who already uses two-factor authentication in advance of the CJIS requirement that the FBI is handing down because data is just too easy to get into. So this rotating number, if I knew any one of your username and passwords, I would simply not be able to access your account without that number. So that is one of the security things that is offered through Google that makes it a more secure system. And the flexibility of being able to use, the kind of device that you like to work with, not necessarily what is given to you and you're asked to work with. Unfortunately, in the Apple world, Apple is very restrictive, and what you get from them is a one flavor. So, I know there's a lot of Apple lovers out there, and I'm not trying to say that, they're the worst, but I have my preference, and it's Android. One of the other things that Mark talked about is the city currently pays $35 a month for the connectivity on your tablets, and I would guess to say that if you utilize your tablet, you probably do 99.9% of the time within a Wi-Fi zone, which means that kind of connectivity is doing absolutely nothing for you. It would be a benefit, we believe, to not only yourselves, but the citizens and the city as a whole, if we simply up that by $7 and gave you all cell phones. You could then utilize the hotspot if you were in a meeting to give connectivity to your tablet, which we would not give connectivity to you. Everybody on our side draws connectivity for their tablets, their devices from their phones. All the police officers, the mobile computer in their car, they stay connected from the hotspot on their phone. So, you know, a very, very small increase to give you a lot more flexibility and give the city and citizens a lot more flexibility in communicating with you. So I'm sure Mark will talk to you about that more. Google Voice number is something like you talked about that we kicked around. You know, there are a lot of citizens out there that don't have email. They don't have access to the internet. They still have landlines. They're one of the few people who were still paying us when we had a 911 fee. So, I mean, this would be an opportunity for them to be able to reach out to you in an easier manner if they had a phone number. And I certainly understand why you may or may not want to give them your personal numbers, but this number would be more protected and allow you to not be woken up in the middle of the night, but still be able to communicate for the people who voted for you. Some other things that we are evaluating right now is the city webpage. The administrative department has voiced to me many concerns about the city webpage and its inflexibility. So we have gone out to a designer site that allows web designers to bid to us on our project. So we have asked for a bid on simple replication of the current city site, and then we're going to, I've recently received the wish list from the various departments on things they may have seen on other sites that they wish that we had. So we're about to introduce that to designers. We received over 200 inquiries who wish to do that work for us, but we have not selected anyone as of yet. The Q Alerts reporting system, that's what citizens can use to report problems to us. It runs us $6,500 a year, and quite honestly, we believe that we could replicate the exact same thing with the loss of some backside reporting, which could easily be made up, on Google Forms. Several forms that we currently use on the City of Erlanger's site, on the main site, there is a business form where businesses can go out and fill out their contact information. This is a Google form. Once this is filled out, it goes to a Google spreadsheet. It automatically notifies the appropriate people, and then they put it into in this case, the tenant system, so that we know how to get a hold of people at night. The other one that's there is a quality assurance form. We've had this out for some time. The fire department advertises this quite frequently because they get most of the returns on this. And we asked people how we did. What do you think about what we did? You know, how was the service you received from us? And we've received since we put this out about 2 years ago, we received about a dozen responses through it over the years. Again, another Google form. This one a little bit more complex because you can see that instead of being a long form, as you go down the form, you get to choose what service you dealt with. And based on that selection, a different series of questions is given to you as opposed to if you just selected one of the others. So the forms can easily be interactive. This costs us nothing. Tabulating how many we receive and the frequency in that, the QSend did automatically, and it was provided in some of Sherry's reports. We can probably make up for less than $6,500 a year. One of the last things that we're evaluating is the Granis video streaming of the council meetings. One of the things that when we set up the city Google Apps, the City of Erlanger Google Apps was a branded YouTube page. This means that, you know, our videos can appear on YouTube under a banner of City of Erlanger. I'll tell you that I believe it's Winter Haven, Florida. That's wrong. It's in the top of the Panhandle. What's up at the top, very top of the Gulf?
Destin.
All right, we can pull Florida names out.
Panama City.
So when I researched it, they were one of the ones I went to, and I found out that they did everything. They did their web page through Google, which was a little basic. I don't know that I'd go there. But they posted all of their meetings on YouTube under their branded page. So, you know, that is something that we're going to look at. I mean, I certainly understand the value of these meetings being streamed live so citizens can stay at home, and it's not something we want to do away with. But, you know, we want to evaluate whether or not the means that we're providing that is the most cost-efficient way to give it, you know, to provide them with that service.
Now, I don't think the people who watch us don't care if they go to our website and watch it, or if they go to a YouTube page and watch us.
And really, we can disguise that so they don't even really know. I mean, we can embed the YouTube page, we could link it. I mean, yeah. We could make it so they didn't even really know where they were at. So these are a couple of things that we are still working on.
I don't know where I'm at.
Clearly, there is a lot of evaluation here, and it all isn't going to change, or should it be changed overnight. You know, we're taking the appropriate steps and doing the appropriate research to make sure that the changes we do make are in the best interest of not only the city, but of the employees who have to utilize it day in and day out. So, I mean, we're not doing any of these things with the snap of our fingers. So some of this may not even go away in this budget year. You may see it represented in the next budget year, simply because we just don't feel we can get to it all that fast in a responsible fashion. The last thing we want to talk about, I actually did what Mark did, and I got ahead of myself, and I showed you the options. Matt's going to go through where you've got a piece of paper there real quickly. He's going to talk to you about that, talks about how to access your new account, how to turn it on, so you're at least able to do it either. You can do it currently. If you want to use your iPads, it's easier to go to the internet browser and just go to, you know, Gmail's mobile account or your computer at home, and then we can discuss a time period about when we want to make a decision about where you want to move and how you want to move forward.
I think Steve needs to be put down. He knows too much. I think you're our biggest security risk.
On Google.
So we'll make this pretty quick.
Very impressed.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
Everyone at your desk, you got the piece of paper here in front of you that says accessing email using Google Gmail. These are your basic quick steps from getting set up. Paying close attention to steps number 4 and 7. On your device, if you have it with you now, we can walk through this, and I'll kind of just show you up here as we go. You can see step number 3, we're already there. You get home on the computer, on your device, however you're going to access this. If you'll go to your browser, go to google.com, you'll see this image up here, and you see that on this piece of paper. You click the blue sign-in box, you'll then be presented with what's your email address and password. These email addresses are everyone's first dot last name, and then it's at cityoferlanger.com.
All lowercase?
All lowercase, all just as it is.
Your first dot.
Last name. And it's there on number 4, Corinne.
Oh, okay.
That step there, it's first dot last name. When you do the password, there's a temporary password, and it's the Erlanger, and that is case